and welcome to another episode of Life Lessons in Bon Jovi Songs. And today we're at another outtake for the third album, Slippery When Wet. So Slippery When Wet was their biggie, and they wrote a lot of extra songs that never made it to the album. Um, Most of the songs or a couple of them were released in 2004 on the box set. The official name is 100 Million Bon Jovi Fans Can't Be Wrong, and it has 4 CDs and 1 DVD. And Out of Bounds was one of the songs that was released in 2004 on this box set, and it was also discussed on the DVD. So the DVD has like a documentary about some of the songs that ended up on the box set, like, what is the backstory, or whose song is it, or, things like that. And Out of Bounds was discussed, but ironically, or maybe also unfortunately, if you're me and you want to have a life lesson, it was only brushed upon. It was only like mentioned, like John mentions, yeah, Out of Bounds was created for the Slippery album, and then he moves on to a completely different story. So I have no background information about Out of Bounds that I can use. So I'm just gonna go with the kind of like the story that John comes up with. So John tells the story about uh, um, the name for the album, and he tells a very funny story. And I'm not gonna repeat that story, so I'm just give you the link to the documentary, including a timestamp, and then you can listen to John's interesting story. But I'm gonna go with another interesting story. So, the background that both of those stories have in common, the one John tells about the album title, and the one I'm going to tell, what it has in common is that for a very long time they went with a cowboy theme. So they had this album, they had recorded this album, and they were in the stage where they were, really kind of like branding it. So, coming up with a theme, or thinking about like an overarching, theme, overarching theme, and it was a cowboy theme. So they had already arranged, they had all grown beards, and they had like cowboy costumes, all of them, and they had, like the dust jackets and dusters, and they had cowboy hats, and they had all grown beards, and they had already had like a big photo shoot with Mark Weiss where they were all dressed as cowboys. So they were very far down the cowboy road. So when they were considering titles for the album, it was really, they were on the cowboy road. They were kind of like thinking about, options that had to do with the cowboy theme that they thought they were going to go with. And then ultimately they ended up not going there at all, because it's called Slippery When Wet, and that was inspired by like a strip club in Vancouver, where they had pole dancing going on with showers. Don't ask. um, so um, uh, so we have a lot of material from the cowboy days, or the times that they thought that they would go for the cowboy look, and it ultimately ended up being used for, or some of it was used for the Wanted Dead or Alive track, which was released. Um, and the album, like Wanted Dead or Alive, was also one of the titles for the album that was seriously considered. So I have here like a photo of Wanted Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi. I don't know if this poster was created at the time when they thought they were going to call the album that, or if this is from the single. Uh, so, or, well, let's see. Maybe it says on it. Oh no, this is from the single. Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm not very good at my job, I think, but I don't know. It says something about 12-inch silver vinyl with 2 extra live tracks. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what a 12-inch silver vinyl is. If that's the album or if that's the single. So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Um, uh, so they were going for this cowboy theme. They were very far on the cowboy theme. We can find the remains of the cowboy theme and remains of the promotional material that it already shot in the era where they released Wanted Dead or Alive as a single. And but it was ultimately, if you compare how much effort they put in, hardly used. So you could say that it was like a dead end road. It was not what they would ultimately go with, the whole cowboy theme. And then something else happened, and that was that they had dropped the cowboy theme. They had chosen their title, which also had nothing to do with cowboys, and they had created the cover for Slippery When Wet. So you think, okay, like they learned their lesson, or they're right on track now. But then they rejected the cover that was ready. So Slippery When Wet had the cover ready. Like it had been through the graphic design department and everything. It was like completely done. And then it was rejected. And the photographer, Mark Wise and John Bon Jovi, like had to come up in a very short period of time, like a day or something, to redo it, to come up with something else. And John just said, okay, I'll think of something. And then one day, John took a garbage bag, sprayed it with water, and with his finger, he wrote Slippery When Wet. He said to Mark, photograph that. And then it was the legendary cover. So the lesson here is that if you start making momentum, if you're inspired to do something and you really go all in on that, then even if that doesn't work out, like it didn't work out for them, first they had to drop the cowboy theme, where they had like months of beard growing and wardrobe gathering invested in, and then they dropped that theme where everybody had been invested in, and then they had the cover ready for their album, which they had called Slippery When Wet, and they had invested in that, or the art department had invested in that, and the photographer had invested in that, and there's even they already had a whole batch in print, like in Japan. You can still the Japan edition was already pressed, like the albums were pressed, the sleeves were printed, and it was already shipped out. So there was an investment already, and then they said, no, we don't want this cover, and they redid it, and they redid it in like 5 minutes, like with the garbage bag and John writing. It was like 5 minutes of work, and I think it just proves that you should really go with what really inspires you, and it will give you the momentum to make adjustments in like, you know, a fraction of the time and have the work done. Even when technically that is a whole different piece of art, or even when technically that is an entirely different cover sleeve. It's like, just if you just invest the work, it's almost like magic, where, you know, seconds or minutes, you can shift it around. It's like that portion of the work automatically moves onto the new thing. And uh, yeah, and I think that's a great life lesson. So just whatever you're doing, really give it your all, because if you have to pivot, like, the work that you already put in, it will go with you in like in an energetic form. And so the things that you choose after that, and the path you take after that, will be very quick and will be very easy. So that was Life Lessons in Bon Jovi song, about the cover of the Slippery When Wet album. And the song Out of Bounds, it's a very guitar heavy song, and I will put in the link in the description box on YouTube or in the blog if you're reading that, so that you can listen to it if you want to. So that was the outtake, Out of Bounds. Outtake meaning song never went actually on the album Slippery When Wet, but it was released 20 years later. And the next song is one in the same category, so it's an outtake from the Slippery When Wet album, and it was released in 2004 as well. I think, I'm not really 100% sure, but I think it was. And it's called Deep Cuts the Night. Okay, see you there. Bye.